It's recording.
Okay,
So can you tell me about your life before you
sure.
entered the Vietnam War?
Okay, well, you got questions here. When and where you were born. I
Mm-hmm.
was born in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, which is at the time was a coal mining steel mill town in
Mm-hmm.
1941, September. My dad, my dad worked in the steel mills, and my mother, she did whatever she could. Okay, and then shortly thereafter, that was in 41, and in 44, my father went to war. Okay, he went to World War II. I was raised in Johnstown until I was about 6 years old, and then we moved to a small town in upstate New York called Nichols, New York, and we lived there until I was in ninth grade, and then we moved out to the country where we bought a farm and we started raising cows, and we milked cows. And we sold the milk, which was a lot of hard work, but it was a lot of fun too. Um, what was you said? What was your family like?
Yes,
Uh,
that's correct.
I had two sisters and a brother. I was the oldest. Now we
Okay.
were kind of a half and half family because my sister and I were 4 years apart, and then it went 10 years to my younger sister and 12 years to my younger brother. So that's like a big gap in there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what my parents were up to during that time, but whatever. They came very, very late in the picture. Um, my mother always my mother always worked. She was very hardworking. Um, she used to work in a shoe factory making shoes. Um, she was when we lived in Nichols and up on the farm, we were close to her family. So I
Mm-hmm.
had uncles and aunts. In fact, um, my aunt kind of raised me a little. Both my aunts. I had two aunts, and I lived with one for a while, and then my other aunt, she lived with us, and she raised me while my mother and father worked.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess yeah, and
Um,
you already know that I'm the oldest.
hmm. um, aside from your father, did any other sorry, did any other family members serve in the military?
Okay, on my mother's side, my aunt went into the Marine Corps, believe it or not, and that was way back in the 50s. And my uncle, her brother, was in the Air Force, and his the older brother, my other uncle, he was in the Air Force as well. I was not really at the time aware of their military service, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
because I was very, very young. On the other side, on the Miller side, I had an uncle, Paul, who was in the Navy. And the only reason I know he was in the Navy was there was a picture on the wall of Uncle Paul in his uniform.
I see.
Um, but other than that, no, no. My Uncle Charles worked in Washington, and he worked for the government during the war, doing drawing secret maps, but he wasn't a soldier.
I
Um,
see. Um,
uh, in schooling,
mm-hmm.
I went to in Nichols. I went to grades 1 through 9, a very small school. The graduating class had 11 people.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that would dazzle you. And it was, let's see, all 12 grades were in one building, a 3-story building, and um, and there were obviously 12 rooms, but there was a small auditorium too, where we used to do, they would put on very, very small productions, but they were good. We had a band, but the band was in a little house next to the school. So
Mm.
they could play and make noise all they wanted. And it didn't bother the kids in the school.
Um,
Um, we had no gym. The gym was an outdoor macadam court.
mm.
That was the gym. And in the wintertime, it made basketball a little difficult. So what they did was when they played a game, The boys actually practiced out there in the winter. They would plow off the snow and throw the ball around. And then when they played a game, they would go to another high school that wasn't far away and play the games. But we didn't have,
Wow.
yeah.
What productions did your school do?
As far as productions,
Mm-hmm.
we had like plays. In fact, my aunt was in a small play that they had right there on the stage. But then, and then we'd have people come through, entertainers. I remember one guy was a magician. He
Mm-hmm.
came through and did a lot of dumb tricks. Um, and then we had a guy who was a scientist. He came by and showed us all sorts of things with liquid oxygen, which was kind of cool.
Wow.
And then that's about all I remember really. But they were just very, very minor little things. There wasn't any, any earth-shattering production. You didn't get many people to come there to do
Uh,
it. In fact, I still remember the joke. One of the I think he was the magician told, he says, so I want to know that the name of the town was Nichols,
mhm.
Nichols, right? And he says, I want you to know that I've worked for big money and I've worked for small money. This is the first time I've ever worked for Nichols. That was his humor.
Um, did you have to work as a child?
I had a paper route. I did a paper route when I was in eighth and ninth grade. And
Mhm.
then when we moved to the farm, work, work was every day. And you worked in the fields. Like a typical day would be you got up at about 4 o'clock
Mhm.
in the morning. Yes. And you went out and got the cows, brought the cows in, fed them, milked them, and then you cleaned out the gutters of all the poop. Okay. And then you put the cows back out, and then you went out, and then you went in and had breakfast. Then you went to school if it was during the school year. If it was summertime, you went out in the fields and you were working.
Mhm.
You hay, you took the hay in, baled hay, put it on, baled it, cut it, dried it, stacked the
Mhm.
bales up on the wagon, brought them to the barn, put the bales up in the barn. There was in the springtime before the crops were up, you were mending the fences,
Mhm.
barbed wire
Wow.
fence. Yeah, so you did that, and then you were chopping firewood, and then you had a garden. We had a garden too. We grew our own vegetables. We grew our own beef. We had a beef cow that we raised, and we raised pigs. We ate those, and yeah, and of course we had all the other dogs and cats and stuff around the farm, but they
Mhm.
weren't pets. They weren't like the pets they have here in New York where they walk them and do all that other crap.
Oh, so they were strays?
The cats were basically strays. The dogs were dogs we picked up, I guess, from around. I don't even know where we got half of them,
Mhm.
but they had to serve a purpose. I mean, my father, I had this. I don't know. She was kind of a collie mixture sort of thing, um,
Mhm.
and my father said, if that dog doesn't do something, I'm going to shoot her.
Wait,
Yes,
really?
really.
Wow.
So I taught the dog how to kill woodchucks. And you know what a woodchuck is?
Um, I've seen them online, but I never saw one in real life.
Okay. Well, they were a nuisance on the farm because what they did was they burrowed in the ground, they made a hole,
Mhm.
and then they piled the dirt up from their hole. And if you were driving your tractor or your wagon across, it would go into
Mhm.
that. Oh, it was a little hole. It was like, about this, but the wheel would drop in, the load would fall off, or they were annoying. So we used to kill them. We never ate them, we just killed them. And
Wow. Um,
sound a little cruel, doesn't it?
sort of, but I remember my cousins when they were younger. My mom said when they were younger, my cousins went out hunting.
Same thing.
Okay. Were you married before you left for the war?
No, I was single. Um, I I had a girlfriend, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
that I went before. Um, in fact, I had a lot of girlfriends before I went went to Vietnam, but I did have
Wow.
one special one, and that's the one that when I came back, I
Mm-hmm.
got with her, and after about a year of being back, I married her.
Wow. Were you drafted or did you volunteer?
That's a good story. I was in college, as a matter of fact, and I was in I think my third year
Mm-hmm.
of college, and I was sitting at the student union, and I was with some buddies of mine, and we were drinking and raising hell, and we were watching a John Wayne movie called The Green Beret.
Mm-hmm.
So I says, "Hey, look at that! We got to be Green Berets." So we decided we were all going to go down to the recruiting office and
Mm-hmm.
become Army Green Berets. Well, we jumped in our cars and drove down there. Well, I was the first one there, and the recruiter said, "What are you here for, son?" Right? You know, he got a live wire here.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "Well," I says, "I want to become a Green Beret." He said, "Well, all you got to do is sign right here. You know, we'll fix you up." Right? Said, "No, no, I'm waiting for my buddies." So he said, "Okay." So that, of course, they didn't show up. So there I was all alone. So finally he said, "Well," he said, "listen, doesn't look like they're coming. Why don't you go ahead and join?" I said, "No, no, no, I'm not going to join." So he said, "Well, you probably can't pass the test anyway." That's all he had to say. Just give me that test. Right. So of course I did very well on the test. And he says, "Well, wow," he couldn't believe it. He said, "What do you want to do?" I says, "Well, what am I qualified?" He says, "Well," he says, "your college background says that you were a pre-med student, that you could become a medic." So I says, "Okay." So I'll be a medic. And I went to Fort Dix, New Jersey, for
Mm-hmm.
basic training, and with full intentions of becoming a medic, maybe getting into the Green Berets and becoming a Green Beret medic. And that's how I got in. And then a lot of things happened from there on that changed the whole course of my Army career.
Wow. Um, what was boot camp like?
I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I was in heaven. I I know. I mean, the drill sergeants yelled at me, screamed at me, made me do push-ups. I loved it. I love marching. I thought that was the greatest thing ever, marching with these guys. I thought that was really cool. I mean, this is the first time I've really kind of like been out, and this was great. I mean, they used to we had a thing called the horizontal ladders,
Mm-hmm.
like you see in the playgrounds,
Mm-hmm.
and you used to have to do that, right? And the guys hated it,
They
and I would
did.
jump up there and do it like crazy. I loved it. I thought it was fun. I mean, it's just in my drill sergeant, he thought I had some gears loose because I was so crazy, but he liked me. He liked me, and he's the one that kind of even guided my career a little different from what I originally planned. He caught me
Wow.
one night. There was a thing. It was a big apparatus, big logs and nets hanging down and ropes and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
we'd march by this, and we never went on it, right? And I always wondered, how come we never go on that thing? So one night, it was a clear moonlit night. It was cold too.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to the guy my bunkmate, we had up and down, I said,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, listen," I said, "let's sneak out and go on that thing." He says, "Are you crazy?" I says, "No, no." I says, "I think we can do it. Let's go." So we snuck out of the barracks. We went down there, and it was about a half a mile away. And now we're on this thing. We're climbing the ropes. Climbing over logs. We're going up these nets and just having a ball, right? I look over,
Mm-hmm.
and in the shadow, I see my drill sergeant. I says, "Oh no." So I said, we looked at each other, we're screwed. We are screwed, screwed, dead. So we ran down, we ran over to him, and like good little soldiers. "Sir, Private Miller reports." He said, "Private Miller, I tell you what, I'm going to turn around and pretend I didn't see anything. And then in a few minutes, I'm going to go back to the barracks and I'm going to count all my little chickens, and they all better be in their bunks." Right. So, like two little animals, we ran back to the barracks, jumped in our beds, and pulled the covers up like this, pretending like they're, and bam, the door comes open. He looks, bam, closes the door. But he knew we were nuts.
Wow. Did you make any friends?
Yeah, now basic training was was kind of a turning point because I made a lot of what I thought were really good friends. And then when basic training was over, they went their way and you went your way. And that was kind of, I'd never had that before, because usually when I had friends, they're forever,
Mm-hmm.
and this was a little difficult to take. Like all of a sudden, now what? I'm going to some other army base and all with all strangers again.
Mm.
So that was,
Wow.
but yeah, some of the people now, the guys from basic training, I don't think I remember any of them to tell you the truth.
Mm.
Yeah, nor in when I went to AIT,
Mm-hmm.
I mean those guys either.
Mm. Wow. Which military branch were you placed in?
Well, I was supposed to be in the infantry, but that's this drill sergeant. He didn't want me to go to the infantry. He says, I'm gonna send you to the artillery." And that I says, "Artillery? What the hell is artillery?" And he says, "You're gonna go to Fort Sill, Oklahoma." I says, "Oklahoma?" I says, "Is that a state?" He laughed. But yes, and that's how I ended up in artillery.
Um, so, so going back to my question with you, were you in were you in the Navy, Army, Marine Corps, or Air Force?
The army. I was in the
Oh,
army. Yeah.
okay. Um, which unit were you in?
Were you in Vietnam
Um,
or just throughout my career?
I guess throughout your career and in Vietnam.
Okay. Well, I went to um, I went to Fort Sill, and I went through artillery training in something called fire direction. Okay, where you tell the guns where to shoot, basically the big guns. And while I was there, I passed a test to become an officer. So I went to officer candidate school at Fort Sill and became an artillery officer. And then after I graduated and got my little gold bar, I was
Mhm.
stationed there at Fort Sill, and I became a TAC officer, where I trained other people um, to become officers.
Wow.
I did that for a while, and then I was there for, I don't know, maybe a year, and
Mhm.
then I got accepted in flight school. And then from flight school, I went to Fort Walters. That's where the primary training was. And then I
Mhm.
went to advanced training in Fort Rucker. And when you were assigned to flight school, you're going to
Mhm.
Vietnam. That's your orders. You're just learning how to fly until you go to Vietnam.
Wow.
So you
Um,
knew when you're in flight school that you were going to go to Vietnam.
also, so after you finish your year, you just deployed to Vietnam.
When I finished flight school,
Mm-hmm.
yep, right from there, right straight to Vietnam.
Wow. What was your rank?
I was a first lieutenant
Um,
when I went to Vietnam. Yep.
yeah. After you completed boot camp, where were you stationed?
Well, I went to, let's just say, after boot camp, I went to Fort Sill for advanced training, and then I was at Fort Sill until I went to flight school at Fort Walters.
Um, when and where were you deployed to Vietnam?
I was deployed to Vietnam in, I want to say it was January of 16, it's January 69. And I was, um, I was just, you just piled onto a plane with a couple of hundred other guys, and you landed in Vietnam. And then from there, you went to different assignments. And I was assigned to two corps, Camp Enari, the Fourth Infantry Division. And I got picked up by Delta Troop of the first of the 10th Cav, which was an aviation outfit.
Um, did you and your unit do anything before you went out to wire, meaning doing anything before going to fight the enemy?
Well, you mean like in camp? Basically, well, I mean, every day we went out and basically look for the enemy.
Or for
Uh,
example, did you like say a prayer before you went to fight the
oh,
enemy?
no, I was I wasn't that kind.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay.
Not that I'm not religious. I'm probably more religious now than I was then.
Mm-hmm.
But no, you kind of planned your flight, and that's what you did. You prepared. You made sure your ship had fuel and ammunition, and
Mm-hmm.
that you carried certain supplies with you. But no, prayer wasn't one of the things that we ever did before a flight.
I see. Okay, so this is a question you don't have to answer. So just so you know, um, were you ever in combat?
Oh yeah.
Um,
I mean, was I
is it
shot at?
or is there a battle or fight you remember being in?
Well, I don't remember all of them, but I mean, yeah, not anything. No, not any one specific. No, I mean, we went out every day, and our mission was hunting,
Mhm.
and we hunted the enemy. And if we found them, we shot, and they shot back, and we went from there.
Um, were you ever injured?
No, no, no.
Mm.
I mean, I saw tracers, which were bullets, go by, but they didn't hit me.
Mm. Um, this is another question that you don't have to answer, okay?
Okay.
Did you knew any or did you know anyone that was lost in the war?
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. I lost two very good friends.
Sorry to hear that.
Hmm.
Um, all right, this is another question that you don't have to answer, okay?
Go ahead.
What is one thing from the war that you will never forget?
My friends, the friends that I made.
Let's see.
Yeah, I will never forget them. Yeah, they're,
Um,
they're very important. We still talk, meet,
mhm.
internet. We used to have reunions up until 2 years ago.
Oh, when COVID happened?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Now the guys are getting too old.
Uh, um, when were you discharged?
December of '84.
Um, all right, this is a question you don't have to answer, okay?
Sure.
Um, did you have any long or short-term injuries?
Um, I
You
later
don't have to
on I
answer
found
this question if you
well,
don't.
I mean, later on I found out that a lot of things that were wrong with me were as a result of the war, like a heart problem. I had a hand problem, um, and they were a result of being in the army, and not necessarily the year in Vietnam, but just throughout my career in the army.
Um, this is just a follow-up question that you don't have to answer. I'm just wondering, were you exposed to Agent Orange?
Yes,
Oh, you were?
yes, and we used to not directly, but they sprayed Agent Orange with these planes, these big, well, like a cargo plane.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we used to fly on the wings. The plane would be here, and then
Mm-hmm.
the two Cobras would fly on to protect them because they
Okay.
flew low and slow. And so
Right.
we would fly along with them. And yes, I could see the mist coming down,
Mm.
the Agent
Wow.
Orange.
Um, what was your life like after the Vietnam War ended?
Well, I was still in the army. I stayed in the army. I went back to the States, and I was stationed in Fort Stewart, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed in the army until I got out in '84. I moved around in various places in different jobs, and had a bunch of different jobs.
Mm-hmm. Um, what occupation did you have when you were discharged?
I was a pilot. I flew in New York City for 25 years. I flew helicopters in New York City. I flew. I worked as a charter pilot, flying other people,
Mm-hmm.
and then my last 10 years, I flew the CEO of AIG, the insurance company.
Okay. This is my very last question that you don't have to answer if it makes you uncomfortable, okay? Um, was the transition from being out of the military difficult?
Well, see, that's a good one for me because I never really got out of the military. I went from being out of the military to flying. So, I mean, um, I didn't, I didn't, it was in the flying is kind of a regimented type thing too, where you've got rules and regulations that you have to obey. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I didn't, in other words, I got a job when I got out flying helicopters.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, yeah, I don't think that there was a transition type thing, you know?
I see.
Um, yeah, I didn't have to worry about a family or anything like that. So it wasn't a
Mhm.
big deal for me.
Okay. When did you get married?
Well, now both times. Okay. I got married in 72.
Mm-hmm.
And I was married to that first wife for 13 years. Okay. Um, and to be honest with you, in the way of revealing, um, I probably shouldn't have got married.
Really?
Yeah, because um, well, let's just say that I really wasn't right when I came back. I was still pretty crazy, pretty wild,
Mm-hmm.
and the idea and the reason I got married was I thought the marriage would settle me down,
I see.
and it didn't,
Oh,
and it made for a very unhappy marriage.
oh,
Yeah,
wow.
well, it happens. But then later on, I think in 80, well, in 83, I
Mm-hmm.
was still in the Army and I was stationed right here at Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn. And that's where
Mm-hmm.
I met my wife of today.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
we've been married for 38 years.
That's amazing.
And that one seems to be working out, although there are some days where I have to, kind of think about that too. Just
Mm,
kidding.
I see. Were you given any medals or awards?
Yes.
Which ones?
Uh, I don't know. Lots of them. Okay.
Um,
I have a Bronze Star. I have 30 air medals with Valor, and
mm-hmm.
there's a bunch. I don't even I don't even pay attention to them, and that's not important.
Okay, did you attend ceremonies honoring Vietnam War veterans like yourself?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, I do
You
that all
have?
the time. Yeah.
Well, which ceremonies or events did you attend?
Uh, well, I know once a year we go to the Memorial Day thing for Vietnam veterans down at
Hmm.
in New York. As a matter of fact, it's the wall down there. They have like a wall and right near Wall Street. There's
Oh,
a memorial down there, and go there once a year. I've been down to Washington D.C. with the Vietnam Helicopter Pilot Association
mm-hmm.
and done some things with them, um, which I'm a member of that. I'm a member of the Vietnam Veterans of America, and they do all sorts of awards and things like that too.
Wow. Okay, so that was my final question.
Okay, so how are you doing with your scouting?
Pretty good.
Look at you, you got your little thing on too.
Thank you. So guess what? Back in December, I received the Girl Scout Gold Award. Yep.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm proud
And
of you.
thank you. And for for most people asking why am I doing this, I mostly tell them that my generation aren't aware of the risk and sacrifices people made, and it's also dedicated to my grandfather because he's the reason why I got interested in veterans today.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
I showed you this when I met you at
Yes,
after the
yes.
parade, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I showed you the other pictures, right?
I think I remember you just showed me some pictures.
Yeah, one of my uncles he fought in Korea, and one of my cousin's brothers, he was in the Navy.
Hmm.
I actually
All
have
right.
two. I actually have two cousins who served in Vietnam.
Oh, wow.
One was in the Air Force, and another cousin was in the Army.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still waiting to interview them.
So what now? You're still in school though, right?
Yes, I'm a senior.
You're senior. Wow. Big time graduation coming up, huh?
Yep, and sorry.
That's
Yes, and
okay.
if I'm lucky, I have 3 months of school left because we do something called at my school there's something called exemption. If you have a B or higher in every subject, like you get exempt early from the ex from the last instead of waiting for the last day of school.
Oh, really? So you were a B or higher student, huh?
Yes, A average.
Are you kidding me? Oh, I hate you. I was never an A average. That's wonderful. That's really, really wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good for you. I wish you tons and tons of luck
Thank you.
in whatever you do. I mean, you're doing a great job. You know, I mean, it's pretty bold talking to old men.
hmm Yep, I got yeah, the more interviews I did, the more I got comfortable with it.
Yeah, yeah, you do well. You do real well. Yeah.
Thank you.
So what is your next adventure now going to be?
I'm still continuing to interview veterans and add on to my website. Only thing is, I'm expanding it to those who survived the Holocaust, those who survived the bombings of Hiroshima and or Nagasaki, and those who lived in war torn places.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to interview Holocaust survivors soon, but I'm
Wow.
getting advice on how to approach them because
Yeah.
I'm bringing up something that I'm bringing up
Got
something
some bad,
I'm bringing
really,
up
really, really bad memories. Yeah.
yeah, because they lived through a genocide.
Yes. Yeah. Terrible thing.
Yep,
Never can, and we have to make sure that never happens again.
exactly. And some people are saying the Holocaust isn't real, it was all fake. Meanwhile, I interviewed two World War II veterans who liberated concentration camps.
There they know.
Yeah, the first veteran I interviewed liberated Dachau, and the second veteran I interviewed liberated the Allen concentration camp.
Wow.
hmm
See, I can't even imagine that myself. I mean, I just can't, you know. I mean, I guess people say, well, you were in war. Yeah, I guess I
hmm
was. But the idea of, you know, if I may, I talked with a guy who was a Korean War veteran,
Really?
and it was amazing because he brought up something that I never thought about. Because he was a POW,
hmm
he came back with the idea that his friends and family thought he was a coward.
What?
Well, because the idea is, you get this in your head where you fight to the death, you
hmm
know, and if you surrender, well, then obviously you're a coward. And
Wow.
I said to him, I says, you've got to be kidding me. I says,
Yes.
man, just the idea that you survived POW camp to me, you got a hell of a lot more guts than most people.
Yes, I interviewed a Tuskegee airman who told me he was also a POW in the European theater. Only difference was when his plane crashed and I think he said told me that Nazis found him and took him prisoner.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I don't know. That's thinking that I can't comprehend that sort of thought. But I
Yeah.
guess there are warped people out there who think that way.
hmm
Dumb. But we need people like you to put the word out.
Yes.
Okay, Shelby, are we done?
Yes, we are.
Okay, well, if you ever need me, I'm here.
I will. Thank you.
You better take care
Well,
of
thank you
yourself
for
too.
your service.
Young lady, I thank you. All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.